Welcome back to another episode of Essence, our new sub-series on the Modern Woman Show, where we are having badass women who are saying yes to life and are leading their lives come and talk to us about their essence. Jacqueline will start by giving an astro reading, and from there, we'll discuss how our astrology plays a role in the way that we show up in our lives.
Amazing. Yeah, so astrology serves as a profound self-exploration tool. We use it to develop ourselves and really study it to practice and help people. Mainly, I do it for myself and my friends, but help people by really having a quick route to self-awareness. So astrology really acts as a mirror, reflecting our true selves and helping us make better decisions, take better care of ourselves, and really help us release what we think we want and focus on what we actually want. So this journey towards self-discovery and personal growth leads us to greater happiness and to our next guest today. So today we're delighted to welcome Karina Rodriguez as our special guest. Karina is a body wisdom expert. Sounds very cool. She helps over and high achievers reconnect to themselves and the wisdom of their body in order to experience work-life harmony, fulfillment, and joy. So we're so excited to have you. Welcome, Karina. Amazing. Welcome, Karina. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, we're so excited to have you on the show. If you don't mind, can you give our listeners a little bit of what you do and how you show up?
Yeah, so my name is Karina Rodriguez, and I am a body wisdom expert. I work primarily with high achievers, and I help them experience fulfillment in all areas of their life through connecting to the inherent wisdom of their bodies.
Wow.
So cool.
Amazing.
I'm like, I want to do that. Well, it's such an honor to meet you here today and to get an inside look at your chart. And so I'm really excited to dive in, Karina. And again, would love to know what kind of questions you have throughout, but really we're going to start with your sun sign. But before we get to that, I'd love to do kind of a high level overview of what your chart might, speak about you. And, to us, astrology is really one of the tools that we use as a shortcut for self-awareness. Obviously, there's so many ways to get there, but I'm so curious to know, what you think about how, I've looked into your chart, specifically these three areas. So I'll start with an overview and then we'll dive in. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So Karina, the overall life theme, the way that you show up is as the healer with the soul of the warrior, wearing the mask of the nature lover or musician. And we'll get to all of that and dive in. So first, we're going to start with the healer. And this is when I'm referring to you as the healer, I'm referring to you as your sun sign being in Cancer in the third house. So I'll explain what that means. When we talk about your sun sign, we really talk about your self-image. So your being, your identity, how you show up. And this is how you show up to yourself, really. And so this is about building a really clear, strong self-image and being able to focus your willpower on actions that you believe are supportive for you. So your sun sign really describes who you are, what experiences make you more confident, and where you find personal strength. So think of it like your ego, which is at the center of your mind, just like the sun is at the center of the solar system. So yours being in the sign of Cancer, that is the energy of the healer. And when we talk about Cancer, people with the sign are usually really good at understanding deep feelings and can also love very deeply, trust very deeply, and accept everything life has to offer very deeply, if they allow themselves to. Because also, when you think about Cancer, Cancer is a crab. So it's shown as a crab in the stars. And this crab, as we know, has a really soft inner and a really hard outer shell. So one of the strategies for the energy of Cancer, or the crab, is to be able to open up and allow life to happen, because inside there's so much there, so much depth and love and feeling and intensity. But then there's also this kind of hard outer shell that can disallow some of those things to come through. So the energy of Cancer typically brings forth a strong imagination, a lot of kindness, very nurturing, like I said, healer. But it's also, there's a caveat to be careful not to hide your own needs behind, this wisdom and understanding you have for other people. So sometimes, having that energy of Cancer brings a fear of change, and unfortunately ending up in places that you don't want to be, like something dull or not like rich enough, or not transformational enough. So that's the energy of Cancer in your sun sign. But it's also I like to think about the place of your life is the house that it's in. So the place for you is around communication. Third house is the house of communication. And that really can mean everything. That can, have to do with relationships, that can have to do with career, that can have to do with how you bring in money, everything. So the house of communication is really about information gathering and sharing. So learning and talking, basically. And so success in the third house is really about having a clear, open-minded view of things and being okay with not having all the answers, and also being really curious and good at asking questions. Unsuccessful navigation of the third house could look like feeling very stubborn about, a view that you have, or, maybe feeling defensive about a certain subject, or talking to a lot about a subject and not, really knowing when to stop. Or you feel like you're all over the place and not super clear, maybe like, oh man, I wasted my time on that. Or maybe feeling disorganized. So sometimes I like to talk about the successful navigation and unsuccessful navigation, to know, because everybody swings, to know, what kind of middle ground looks like, and also what maybe sometimes tripping looks like, and what success can feel like. So that's a lot, but that's really, the energy of Cancer, this nurture, this healer, is in the area of learning and talking and sharing with others, is really what brings you, excuse me, confidence and really brightness as your being. So that was a lot of information. And I'm just curious for you, Karina, if any of that resonates with you, and if so, how?
In deep resonance with all of it. Yeah, like I've definitely gotten readings in the past, but I haven't put a lot of attention on it being on the third house.
Okay.
So that was very insightful. Yeah, I think a lot of parts, like definitely, I think Bri can like testify to me loving to talk about this stuff, like the things that I know. And like my gift and my work is actually has been a life work devotion to this 27 plus years. Like it's been a dissertation something that I identified at 3 and 4 years old. There was a disconnect in people, and I could see their body and their essence disconnected. And I'm like, something else is going on bigger. So my whole life has been devoted to basically creating a way to help people reconnect with themselves, mind, body, and soul, completely embodied. So deep resonance with that. And then the need to like learn and share. And then also sometimes becoming stubborn with it, like for a while I did identify, because for a long time growing up, like we didn't see the body for more than its looks. So I would like push, I definitely do have like a rebellious side. So I used to like hate how we put such an emphasis on the body to like only looks. I knew there was more in middle school and in high school and in college. So I would like not want to prioritize my looks to like rebel. Um, but now there's definitely started to be more ease and like appreciation and allowing. Um, and also the opening just last night, like my body was like really revealing to me, like we're stepping into a season where we need to allow ourselves to just open and receive. There's so much. And my consciousness was just like communicating like all night. It was like, there's just so much to receive right now. And it was showing me like all these different paths. So in deep resonance with a lot, like everything you say.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. And again, I'm not here to be like, this, this needs to resonate. I hope it does, because for everybody, it's a little different. It's like, if anything does, amazing. If not, put it down. It's not for you. And I just think that's so cool. I love to see, I just love to see people embodied. And obviously you do too. It's your life's work. So I'm really excited to learn more about you. With that, I would love to share. Go ahead, Bri.
Sorry, no, I was also just going to share too that I do want to testify for that. Like, because when we met, like, I don't know, last week or 2 weeks ago, I got chills when Jacqueline was sharing about your like learning and sharing through communication, because that's literally what we talked about. I was just like so entranced, like listening to you speak about all of your gifts and just your depth and the love that I was just like, I just kept telling Karina, like, you need to share this. You need to be on all platforms. You need to be speaking to hundreds of thousands of people. And so when you said that was in her chart of just like communication and sharing, and I just wanted to say, like, yes, I felt that from just in like the first hour of meeting you. So it's really cool.
And that's such a gift too. And, when I think about astrology in somebody's chart, I interpret it as a language, but also these individual pieces combined. But it really, there's so much more to a chart than just what I'm sharing with you. This is just, intro. But it does reveal a lot. And so I'm excited to continue, because as both of you talk, I'm like, oh, wait, but there's more, because it also, brings to life what you're saying. So that is actually a perfect transition into your moon, which is the warrior aspect. I mentioned your soul is the soul of a warrior, which is cool. But also that means your Aries moon is in the 12th house. So I'll back up a little bit. Yeah, you're shaking your head. So the warrior is the Aries energy, and that is the power of your will, or what you want to do, to stay strong, to stay courageous. The Aries energy is the story of courage. So constantly finding opportunities to be brave, which means it brings in stress, right? It brings in, maybe stress can be good or bad. So it brings in challenge. It brings in potential obstacles to overcome, always. But having that Aries energy really shows how your determination can overcome those things over and over and over again. It's like having the bravery to climb a mountain. So when your Aries energy is involved, there's a sense of like a fighting spirit or wanting to compete. And this is when I mention your soul, that's the moon aspect. So the moon really brings out how you feel and what makes you feel good and what may make you feel bad. Your mood can go up and down, Aries energy. How your soul, really like the temperature of your soul, and also what fears you might have. So the function of the moon is to describe and help anyone learn how to feel and express emotions, and also to become, more sensitive and understanding of your own emotions, and, be able to sit with those as well. Which it sounds like you're good at that, but those are some of the things that the moon shares about ourselves, because not all of us are inherently good at that. So with the moon in Aries, sometimes that can look like acting or feeling overly emotional or indecisive about something, which I think there's plenty of space for emotions. But also there can be, emotions, we can allow our emotions to keep us from taking action, or maybe having an overactive imagination with them and letting them kind of take us by storm. So when we think about the energy of being a warrior, right, as your soul being in the 12th house, this is where I think it gets really interesting and exciting, because the 12th house is called, it's really about what's hidden, but it's also called the house of troubles, which I think is interesting, because the 12th house is what's unconscious. It's what's hidden. It's what we can't see. And this can also bring out opportunities to learn what's internal. It can bring, success in this house looks like potentially focusing on meditation and getting to know what's hidden, because most of us is made up of the unconscious, as we know. It can lead to, psychic potential to have sidekick interactions, or spiritual experiences that maybe you can or can't explain. Unsuccessfully navigated, the 12th house can look like being really uncertain with your self-image, or having certain addictive or destructive relationships. So again, I like to show both sides, how it can be like there's a really, really successful and like you can feel great. And then sometimes we can swing the other way depending on where we're at in life. So to wrap it up, the soul being a warrior and the house of what's hidden, that's, totally goes, for me at least, it really portrays kind of what you're explaining, and how you've always seen what's hidden, is what you mentioned when we kind of first started talking. And so I wanted to ask you if anything that I've mentioned here, if anything else resonates, or and if not, that's totally okay too.
You totally nailed it. That's my gift. And because the body is the unconscious, right? My gift is to help people tap into the unconscious parts of themselves. A lot of times, what the body is communication, the story underneath the cellular memory. And a lot of times, people cannot even sense, like, it's through my awareness that I'm like, oh, drop down to the left side. There's a pinch there. Do you feel it? And then they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's what this part's wanting to reveal. And then once I start telling them, they're like, yeah, that's currently been showing up in my life. Or like, shake your head like this. And they're like, oh, my body's been doing that for the last weeks. Like, and then I tell them the storyline behind what their body is trying to process, which is really a part of them that they've lost touch with, that needs to be reintegrated so that they can be more whole within themselves, and they could see their life more clearly, not in that illusion of their eyes. So 1,000% on point.
Oh my goodness. Bri, I mentioned, did you have something?
No, I just was talking to myself over here, just saying that's so cool. Just like
That's
fangirling.
so cool. And
Yeah.
two, so you have this gift of helping others realize themselves and what's hidden. And so you must have mastered this in yourself early on.
Yeah, I mean, being in Aries, like, as a child, I used to have very big emotions. Like, I would throw really big tantrums. Like, I could not handle my emotions. But I do know, like, I do remember later on in high school, like, I used to emotionally, like, I would cry myself to sleep to emotionally regulate myself so that I could actually show up the next day to school like a clean slate, because I was going through a lot then. And a lot of it, like, was tapping into my unconscious parts. And even when I did get into college, like the first day of college, because of all the stuff that happened in high school, the first day, my subconscious spoke to me loud and clear, and I heard it. I could hear it, like it spoke right here, right on my side. And it was like, you need to hide. People are seeing you. And I was like, okay, like, I'm going to do that. And I did honor that. I still continue to get involved, that warrior spirit, but I honored it not being in the spotlight, which is more with my Leo and my Leo and my Chiron and my Leo in the fourth house. Like, that's connected to that one. But I honored that, but my subconscious, yeah, it spoke clear. It would, that I needed to hide. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, I honor you.
Oh my goodness. So can I ask another question? What
Yeah.
did that sound like? Did it sound audible, or was it a knowing, or how did that look for you?
It was annoying, but I could also see it and feel it. And it was like, I knew, because I've always, like, my whole life, my inner voice, like, I never lost touch with, like, my core true self. Like, I can see people losing touch with it, like, throughout middle school and high school. And I actually, like, knew, and I created a theory within myself. I'm like, I know teen years actually affect us a lot more than we put, like, attention to, like, psychologically, like the identity we develop. There is a lot of focus around, like, the person that was, like, bullied and become successful. Like, that's a narrative we all know, but we never talk about the narrative. The person that had it on was successful, and then, like, the trauma they experienced by being in the spotlight, and then they go about hiding, which was my story. That's not a story that's really talked about, or like something that's studied. But our teen years really impact our identity. And I used to see, like, my peers flip-flopping, like, their identity. Like, I'm like, they're not, I could see how disconnected they were to their core truth. And I just knew, I'm like, okay, you don't even fucking know yourself. Like, I'm not going to waste my time with you. So then I would become more focused on doing things that I believed in. So I was always very busy, like running multiple clubs and, like, but yeah, that's how it's looked throughout my life.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing. I have so many more questions, but I will I will save them for now. Amazing. Okay, great. I would love to then head into your rising, which is in Taurus. I love talking about the rising sign. This is when I mentioned the mask of the earth lover or musician. And when I say mask, I don't mean hiding. I mean how you show up to the world. So you're being who you are to yourself and internally is that healer, and how you show up is this earth lover, or musician, really like artist. But when we think about the Taurus, the energy of Taurus, Taurus is steadfast. This energy is stable and reliable and practical and very simple in a beautiful way. So almost suspicious of anything unnecessary or overly complex, and really values like patience and practicality. It's like peace and silence. And that's another reason why, that's a reason why the Taurus is sometimes known as the earth lover, because a lot of times to find those simple, you know, solemn, peaceful things, like finding time in nature or finding connection to the earth or grounding is necessary. And so a lot of times people with Taurus dominant placements love nature, love being in nature. It's refreshing. And it looks different to different people. But then it's also the energy of a musician in the sense that, the inner sense of peace is like music. It's so harmonious and balanced, and you show up with this beautiful presence a lot of times when it's successfully navigated. So again, I mean, having an aversion to complexity probably means that you show up as someone who prefers being really straightforward and not very complicated. And so, some areas to be cautious are with things like material security. So, the energy of Taurus is also known for loving resources, which is great. Having material support is amazing. But sometimes, having excess amounts of support and material security for its own sake can be, detrimental or can knock you off your path. Also, external validation, having, trying to seek inner peace by having a lot of validation by other people or external possessions like money or things or recognition can easily knock a Taurus rising off their path as well. But that also sounds like that's something that you recognize in other people, whether it's in the past or now. And so a strategy for someone with a Taurus rising, usually is about being as simple and trusting, the practical thinking that you naturally have when you're making decisions, and being patient, not being in a rush, being really, wise with your resources. But then when things don't feel simple, getting it back in touch with what you love in terms of nature or music or whatever brings you back to presence. But I almost sound silly telling you those things because knowing the nature of your job, you've probably already mastered all of that. So I'll just pause there and ask, if any of that resonates with you or if you'd like to add anything else.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with the practicality and the patience and like getting rid of the like BS, because um and like simplifying things and that connection to earth. Because actually in my work and like a lot of times the analogies that I like describe to people of the wisdom of the body and how like why it makes sense, like our being, it's like I compare it a lot to nature. Like a lot of the ways that I get to describe is like, well, if you look at that tree, like, or like even the seasons, like we ourselves need to go through seasons of like shedding, and like we're constantly that, like sometimes people like could think, oh, people that are constantly doing the work, like, oh my God, they're addicted to that. But it's like, no, we're constantly getting to know ourselves. That's part of life. Like evolution is in nature. Like the tree every year goes through the same process of shedding, and it's like, it's a whole cycle just to be born again. And in that, we humans also go through that, and we're getting to know different parts of ourselves so that we can be whole, because throughout our life, we lose touch with so many parts. So 1,000% in resonance with that. And then also when it comes to entrepreneurship, like really honoring the path that I'm called to, you know, and like, and through that, I have been able to be in alignment with like different seasons that are calling me, allowing the seasons to lead the way instead of like, you know, I've even been in courses where I paid a lot, or like masterminds, and the mentor was telling me like to do something, and I just knew my whole being is like, that's not for me. Like I'm in this season, and that's not the choice I need to make. So like honoring that and then getting what that season was offering me.
I know Bri resonates with that 1,000%. I do too. But I love that you shared that as an example of how you lead your life. Because that's exactly it. That's exactly the point, is, you know, becoming so in touch with yourself that you can trust when your body or your being is telling you the directions and you trust it.
Mhm.
And you found that in a way that is not astrology, which is beautiful and great. Again, astrology is one tool. And so I was curious if you were open to sharing a little bit more about how you initially, you know, started to recognize that gift or muscle, or however you describe it in yourself.
Well, I think again, like being very aware as a child, you know, 3 to 4. For me, my journey, a lot of it felt like it was a sucking from feeling connected to others, being
Mhm.
the observer, and like I can't really trust these people or like feel connected, you know, because I did experience a lot of betrayal. So for me, part of my journey of reconnecting was a lot of like healing, a lot of that stuff that I went through, never losing touch with myself. And the whole process just like, how much am I going to allow myself to expand? Um, and in that, like I was always about honoring like what was true for me in that moment, what was going to serve me, you know, because I also in high school I did reach like the furthest and the most success I can reach in everything I did, and it came so easy because I would regulate myself emotionally. I would have an impulse like, this is what I need to do. I never came at it from like, oh, I want to be popular, like all the good things that came with it that created envy and jealousy. Those were not the things I was after. But I also did learn that voice speaking to me was like, it's not worth it, because
Mhm.
I would intuitively get insights of things happening across campus or with other people. No one ever confronted me with what was actually happening. And 10 years later, a lot of the things that I would know what was happening was like validated. So it for me, it's just really been like I've never lost touch with that. But part of my reconnection has been about reconnecting with the part of me that did feel safe to be in relationship with people and like trust people, because I've always been somebody that gets along with everybody. Like I am a dancer also, and like sometimes I allow like I'll randomly just sing out a whole song, and like a new song that's never been sung before. So it's so cool you brought out like music, because I actually, yeah, I have like like I used to allow my like consciousness to just sing, and I'm like, that's a whole song, you know. I'm like, I should have recorded that. And like, so that's definitely a thing there. I haven't given it as much of a place like over the past years, but that Taurus grounded, simple energy, like very in resonance. And that part that you're like asking about, it's just always been there. And I just always known to listen to it because it's always been right. And like I saw very early on that other like the adults were not right. Like I actually would challenge the adults as a child. I'm like, you guys don't know. Like we know more as kids than the adults do. So I never let that part of me shut off. Like that was my North Star, basically.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you for sharing more about that.
Yeah. I resonate with a lot of that too. Um, and I know that Jacqueline does too. Like Jacqueline was also this like has a like had so much success in her academic career too. So it made me think of her in that sense. But um how did you like how did you can you tell us just about the process of basically this being this knowing, this inner knowing with yourself, and then the transition of it becoming like your full-time career? How did you decide to do that?
So I like it took me looking back to realize that this dissertation, this life dissertation and research situation started at 3 and 4. Like this is something I didn't realize till like after, but basically
Yeah.
continued to study humanity throughout. Then when I got to college, I was double majoring in psychology and sociology because I had already been as a child testing theories for like, oh, people do this. They say, like, I would channel theories. I'm like, they say when people do X, Y, and Z, they are bad people, but I know people that do X, Y, and Z and they're not bad people. Something else is going on. Like, I would literally do that as a child. So when I got to college, the place that felt most fitting for me was double majoring in psychology, sociology, and minoring in business management because I was already very involved in leadership, activism. Like, I still continue to be involved in activism. I was involved in 7 research projects with 5 professors, like everything. I was a women's program intern. Um, and I would like lead workshops on body positivity, like, so I was already doing that. But my sophomore year, my intuition was like, you need to go sit in front of a therapist and see if this is how you want people to feel when they come to you. And my intuition also told me, I want you to trigger in your body a traumatic response. I want you to think negative thoughts about it. And I want you to tell her that you're happy to see if she sees a disconnect. And I was like, all right. So I'm in the room. I could feel my body like shivery, like, like even my jaw tight. I'm thinking the negative thoughts, rewriting the story, like writing the story over and over. And then when she asked me, like, okay, what's going on in your life? I was able to like just say the good things that were happening in my life. And she was like, okay, at the end, she's like, you don't need therapy. I walked out of the room and that voice is like, okay, it's complete here. Like, continue your path, continue doing all this research. I was like really involved in the outskirts because I don't want to be seen. And I started practicing mindfulness, like doing yoga, meditation. When I was a freshman, I read the 4 Agreements, which really validated the way I already saw the world. I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy, but I just continued diving into inner healing. And then when I was 21, I started practicing Kundalini yoga, which is very like rigorous, like inner spiritual. It's like the most spiritual yoga I've ever done. And then when I was 21, 22, I just really dove deep into inner healing. I started doing inner child healing. Actually, Jacqueline, I did a training when I was 22. I was studying abroad with Brandon. He did a life coaching. I did a life coaching training with him.
That's wild.
At 22, I'm studying abroad. I was doing that. I was meditating. I was praying. I would wake up early in the morning, like doing all the work. I started doing ancestral healing, like intuitively on my own. No one ever taught me these things. Like, go do this, at 22, like I was just deep in healing while my classmates were going out partying. Like, I would go to school and then I just wanted to go home to like continue healing. And I had gone through a big breakup at 21 that I knew I needed to like end things. And I had been in that my whole college experience. So that I use that as an avenue to really come back into myself, because I had seen people ending relationships and ending up with somebody else and recreating the same pattern. I'm like, I don't want to do that. This is an opportunity for us to like self-reflect and grow. So when my opportunity came up, I took it, and I just kept diving in, and I was already tapping into like the body. Like, I always knew there was more to the body. So like it was just timing for me to continue to come to it more and more. So it's like kind of always been there, like even Facebook memories, people from high school would comment like, thank you for being my therapist. Thank you for being my coach, my life coach. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, so I was doing it on the side, and I just didn't know what it was going to be yet, but it was already something. It was already working its magic. And June 2020, that's when I launched a 14-week pilot, like out of the blue. And then January, February 2021, I'm like, okay, I worked through my stuff, the parts of me that didn't feel safe to be seen and to share my gift, like more big. And then it started attracting all these people that they're like, hey, I saw you and I want to work with you. And that's when I went full time.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like there's a lot of fears around, like, I don't know, it's the depth that you're describing, and forgive me, I'm trying to put words to it, but it's like this self-awareness that you've had for so long. I just think it's really inspiring, and I think it's really powerful for our listeners to hear how you like just so innately knew that this was a gift that you wanted to share, and talking about that transition is really, really powerful. So I'm just so inspired by you.
I have a question for you, Karina. It sounds like you've studied your chart before. And so, all the things. I was curious, I'm looking at your chart right now. You mentioned there's a lot going on in the fourth house, as you know. And normally we don't dive into this, but you mentioned your Chiron being in the fourth house in Leo. And so if you're okay with it, and if not, that's totally fine too. But Chiron, the wounded healer, fourth house being, your home and your foundation, Leo being, the creative, the performer, the leader. Having your Chiron in the fourth house in Leo is very clearly like, oh, I don't want to be seen. So how did you work through that?
Yeah. So, you know what? There's so many things. First, I'll point out the first one that popped up. 1,000% fourth house foundation. That's why my mission, bigger mission, is to help people feel at home in their body, taking into consideration that our first home follows us wherever we go because that lives in our unconscious. That becomes our foundation. So it follows us to work, it follows us in our relationships, it follows us for the rest of our life. For me, a lot of my work has been about going deeper into my own ancestry, my family. Like I'm in a place, with my family. Like, it was really important to do the work to like be in a harmonious place with them, with my parents, like, and even my own body revealing to me generational like traumas, that I was unconsciously living because we end up living it. So part of at home in your body is supporting people to rewrite that blanks, like that slate, that foundation in their body. So wherever they go in the world, they have that. And that's a big part of my mission. Like that's a wounded healer being embodied. And it's literally at home in your body could not be a better name for someone with, Chiron in the fourth house that has done the work. And the Leo part, I actually like part of my wounding, one of my big woundings in the womb that I accessed was not being seen. My mom was pregnant and I'm number 7 out of 8, and she has a sister that was passing. She did not want her sister to know that she was pregnant because she didn't want her to be worried because that sister was very supportive. So in that instance, there was an embedded in my cells, in my memory, that my mom was hiding me. And I received the projection of my aunt because she knew when you're dying, you're like, you see everything, She knew my mom was pregnant, so she was worried for my mom. And I kind of took it as like antagonism, like she doesn't want me. So I had to work through that, but that's the imprint that I came in. And then I come in and I'm this pretty girl. And the nurse, when I was born, the nurse told my mom, that's the thing my mom would always tell me. She's like, the nurse told me you were so beautiful. She's like, this girl's going to be so beautiful. So for the longest, I did not like, part of my wounding was like not wanting to be seen for the outside. And that's exactly what contributed to more of that wounding. What happened in high school, the jealousy was a reflection of the outside, things that I didn't go after necessarily. It was things that just came as an expression of my inner,
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, it's been a dance. And even now, like I'm constantly, for me, it's not like nervous system wise, big jumps. Whenever big jumps happen, like for me, it's about being grounded in whatever I step into, because I know these parts, right? Like I'm not my 16-year-old self, but I know what she went through. And like, I actually got a shoulder dislocation when I played basketball in college. I saw a girl I had not seen played against anybody from high school, but during December, which was the time I would play against this girl, college ball, junior year, I had a tournament in LA, and I'm going up for the rebound, and I happened to see who we were playing against, and there was a girl I used to play against in high school. My shoulder dislocated that day. How fucking ironic. How many times have I gone up for a rebound? So that's something that's still like, if there's still a little pain there, we've worked through it because it still can dislocate now, like, but yeah, so for me, it's something that I know that I'll like probably like need to work, like continue to have my back in that, because it's just part of my journey. Um, but it's for some people with this wounding, like Selena Gomez is born the same day as me. We have the same chart, same. So, but I know that a lot of celebrities, I think Ariana too, she has her Leo. It creates a lot of really good celebrities, but the deeper wound is like, shit, like I don't want to be seen for this. I want to be seen for who I truly am inside.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This is my favorite part. Hearing your story, having the, what I see come to life through what your life. I really appreciate you sharing more about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. I also wanted to kind of topic shift a little bit and ask you to share about like what's going on with At Home in Your Body, your new clothing line. Like, tell us a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. So right now, I've been I'm pivoting from, okay, let's see. Let me ground this a bit. So there's a few things going on. I in the past I was more just only taking a little bit of people. Like I was not really open to take on more people. But right now we are shifting to like be available to receive more people and to support more people. We did recently launch At Home in Your Skin clothing line. And we currently have a wait list for people that do want a pre-order. And At Home in Your Skin is an extension of At Home in Your Body. And we'll start there because I've always been passionate about body image and like the external part and the degree that we kind of sway people to like not really honor, even their true identity. So At Home in Your Skin is the inspiration of really helping people own the identity they are embodying right now with the awareness that there's going to be a shift in identity throughout. So we celebrate the identities that are dying, being shed while celebrating and honoring the one we currently have and making room for the one that's to come. And our merch is called Skins because you get to take on a new skin and wear it. And this skin is celebrated and we want to encompass the experience of you being at home in your body through selling merchandise that's really comfortable. And so far, everyone like has wrote like a review and they're all great. Everyone's like, they're so comfortable and cozy. Like I really want to extend that experience of you being comfortable and cozy when you go out. Like you don't want to go out, but you have to get out and you want to have that feeling of being at home in your body. The clothing is designed to do that. That's like the front facing, like more people. The idea is like we want this brand and this experience to land in more hands and have more impact to more people that may not feel called to do the deeper work. And the sweater's so cool. It has an affirmation in the sleeve that says, I am home. So it's like really grounding and it says At Home in Your Body. So that's the merch line. And At Home in Your Body, we have different programs that we will be launching through At Home in Your Body. One of them is called Reconnect. That's a year-long program. The intention behind that, I really wanted to offer something that felt affordable and that felt like a retreat that hugs and holds you throughout the whole year. I know I've heard from people, they're like, oh my God, retreats are so expensive. Like, it's just like a weekend. Like I had a few friends that were wanting to go to retreats. And also sometimes people get that crash, like they go to a retreat or they go to like a motivational event and then they come back and they're like, I'm like I want more of it. And there's this idea that we need to get away, or like a vacation. We get away to a vacation, but then we go to vacation. And I was vacationing a lot the past year, so I know it can cost a big buck. But we go to vacation hoping to get away to have that relaxation. But everything that is with us follows us to that vacation. The dynamic we have with our partner, the anxiousness in our body, so a lot of times we end up finding, and we're trying to recreate this vacation we're sold, like, oh my God, this peace, luxury. But then we get there, we're still feeling the same. So reconnect, the intention of that is like this experience of you retreating into yourself throughout the year and coming out a different person. And it's designed where it's integrated into your life so that every time we meet, you continue to evolve in a way that you are just a different person. It's not a thing you need to think about. Like a lot of my clients, they come back. A lot of them are high achievers. And one of them came back once. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't do the homework. And I'm like, girl, you're over here trying to do the homework when you already have the job. You're already living out the thing we work through. Like you're already moving through the actions in the way that we were hoping. Like, you're already embodied in your new version. So that's reconnect. Yeah, those are like the two main things that we have going on right now.
Amazing. That's incredible. So I'm really excited for mine. I know we talked last week and I'm like, I would love a hoodie, please. But yeah, that's absolutely incredible. I just love the work that you're doing. And honestly, the impact that you're having on the world is so needed. And I'm just so thankful that our paths have crossed, that we got the opportunity to learn more about you today. And before we go, I would love to ask you one final question. For other women out there or just other individuals out there who are really trying to cultivate their essence themselves, what advice would you give them?
What I'm feeling right now, because I was actually having a conversation with somebody yesterday. It's not linear. It's not like this is going to work for everybody. So it is important for you to like connect to yourself. Like, what do I need? And I'm feeling right now, one of the ways to do that is to just really feel into your heart. And like, if you don't feel anything, that's the feeling that is there, and try to move from that place, having that check in every day. Because even just making the attempt to check in every day can start to build that relationship and that trust with yourself. Like, even checking in, sometimes people are like, I don't feel anything. And it's like, of course you're not, because you haven't done this, So it's really important to be very gentle with self. And it could be very overwhelming. Like, I need to do all of this. Like this person said to do this person said to do that. Different modalities will serve you at different times. But the most important thing, the thing that will be continuously there is you. And that's the most important part to access. It's not about the way that you get to accessing yourself. Different things will serve you at different times. What will always be there, though, is your body and your essence. So starting by just touching your heart and like checking, like, do I feel the pulse? Do I feel something? Do I not? And taking inventory every day. Even if you want to start a journal with putting your hand in your heart, that could literally be it. Okay, today I'm starting out, I'm putting my hand in my heart. Day 1, I don't feel anything. And celebrate, I don't feel anything. Put a little happy face next to it. Like, I did it, like no judgment. So yeah, just taking very simple. I think that's like the most simple thing. And then from there, you can, once you start feeling more, or for people that might already feel, that's, what do I need? And when you're asking, allow yourself to feel you're asking other parts of you. And one day it could be 5-year-old that's popping out. She's like, I want an ice cream, and another day it could be 21-year-old that's like, I just want to relax. Like, different parts of you are going to speak to you, and they're going to want different parts. So you not having a judgment towards them and inviting them in, that's going to allow them to speak to you more.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your essence. Like, it is such a gift, and I'm just so honored that you came on the show. Thank you so much, Karina.
Thank you
Karina,
for having me.
You're amazing. Okay, one last. Where can everyone find you online?
So they could find me on Instagram at Iam.Karina Rodriguez. And then if you feel inspired to check out everything else, it's all on there on my bio.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was such an honor to be with you today. And yeah, thank you for all your wisdom.
Thank you both. I own that I felt a little nervous in the beginning, and it makes sense because I got to speak about parts that I hadn't publicly. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, yes, of course.